Good afternoon. How are you? Well, it's not a bad day. It's 71 degrees. It's looked on and off like it was going to rain today, and it feels that way now, but it's not here yet. So we're at 38% humidity, and a wind just kicked up, and it's supposed to be 18 miles an hour. The doors at our place are slamming shut when a window is open, so you get some idea of what the wind can be like. The number of subjects one could talk about on any given day are a baker's dozen, I suppose. Some are continuations of what happened. Among the significant ones is how do we handle Zelensky? Because we're on the verge of failing a nation state, Ukraine, that's literally fighting for its life, for its own freedom, and to be recognized and not to be taken over with the concurrence of Europeans and the United States necessary to its survival. Trump has seemingly washed his hands of the affair, saying, in essence, take it or leave it. Europe is trying to teach Zelensky to accept some of the terms. But what are those terms? The terms on the table from Russia, by means of the proposal by Trump, is to give up the Crimea that Putin conquered in 2014. They talk about annexed, but he didn't annex it, he conquered it. And it's been pointed out to me when I've used the term annexed before that that's imprecise, in fact misleading, and we all fall heir to the errors of normalizing and accepting language, in this case of a wannabe dictator. So we have to be more careful, because what happened in 2014 is what happened several years ago, when again it was Putin that marched on Ukraine trying to seize it and take it over. The other terms that are on the table are don't join NATO, and that Zelensky should step down as the president, and we should lift the sanctions against Russia, and so forth. Now, the Europeans are pushing for terms that would involve a ceasefire. But there's the rub. They're pushing for a ceasefire because Europe can't make up for what U.S. appears insisting on abandoning in terms of help for Ukraine. So if we don't have the muscle on the table to deter Putin, can we assure a full ceasefire, assuming we can find terms which don't appear to be available right now? And what would be the robust security guarantee if the United States is not at the table? Now, keep in mind, when Trump particularly says, oh, you're just going to lose, it's just going to take more time to do it. And I've said this before, so I apologize for it. But everybody thought when Putin crossed the border to take over Ukraine that he would succeed at that in a matter of days. And it turns out now it's a matter of years. So what resilience can Zelensky find to compensate for America stepping back? Maybe they can't. But we should keep in mind that a Russian military official was killed yesterday. And in the tradition of the Russians, it is suspected that Ukraine's special forces arranged for there to be an IED, improvised explosive device, with shrapnel in a car. And when the lieutenant general walked past the car, it exploded and killed him. So, what do we have here? Now, the Washington Post has warned that we can't rest assured on anything that the Soviets propose. And you have to consider the history that the Ukrainians are familiar with. When left to their own, the Soviet Union did what to the Ukrainians? Well, first of all, it took over Ukraine and made it a member of the Soviet Union. Then, particularly under Stalin, without Lenin even knowing about it, there was a massive genocide of Holodomor. And this was in 1930 or so. The people, mostly rural, were denied food. And here's the irony, the bitter irony, that they were considered the breadbasket of Europe. And so because of the Stalin-esque repression, some scholars say that 3.5 million died, and others say perhaps twice as much. So in the memory of a Ukrainian, and it should be ours as well, when Putin sought to conquer Crimea in 2014, it brings all of that back. And the Ukrainians don't want to go back. And in recent years, there's been an effort, the one we're suffering through, in which Putin is trying to take over all of Crimea. That's not sufferable. And so that's why the Post asks, could Zelensky trust the most solemn of promises from Putin not to continue his revanchist land grabs? And the answer is no, you couldn't. No more than you can trust Trump. Now, Trump may beat his chest and say everything is going great, but not quite. We have a poll out that says, in terms of the tariffs, 64% of the people disapprove of how Trump is handling tariffs. They're saying his approach is chaotic. 59% find what he's doing is scary. Now there's other news. You may remember George What's the Truth Santos from Long Island. He was prosecuted for all the many lies that he told. And his sentencing has just occurred, and the court gave him 87 months in prison. Now, that's pretty interesting. He seemed to me, perhaps to you as well, to be damaged goods. Very questionable person, that he knew what he was doing. I'm not proposing this as a defense, but we take him in his self-promotion and fantastic lies about all sorts of things. Got him some money, got him some trouble, it was out in the open. How does that sentence compare to the sentence that Trump got for his convictions? What was his sentence? So when anybody in America says, no man is above the law, just shout back at them, bullshit. What planet are you from? Is there something wrong with your senses? Can you not see and hear? Don't you know? What will it take for you to understand that we have Pinocchio in the White House who couldn't find his ass with both hands, but can't tell the truth either better than that? So that's our problem. And Santos, why wasn't he above the law? He hadn't climbed high enough into the political establishment to merit protection. Also, it was too obvious. And then I have one other thing that might get a kick out of. I don't know where you are, but if you were anywhere in Loudoun County where I am, they had a flower garden festival. I may share a couple of those pictures with you. And I got a chance to catch up with a friend, a delegate in the General Assemblies from our area, Marty Martinez. Wonderful person, sensitive to animals and all the other issues that happen down in Richmond. He's a delegate, so he's in the equivalent of the Congress as opposed to the Senate, which we have in Virginia as well. So also, you can grow your own tomatoes. So that's what I got to say. And so I say goodbye to you for today from the Cathedral of Trees, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.